For most of my life, coaches have told me that if you want to run faster, you have to run more. And while that is true, it's also not the full truth. There's more to it than that. In recent years, the idea of cross-training, whether that's biking, elliptical, arc trainer, aqua jogging, anything like that, as a substitute for regular running has become a hot topic in big part due to the success of Parker Valby at the NCAA and now Olympic and professional level. She was well known for the fact that she was a multi-time NCAA champion, but said that she only ran around 20 miles a week. And it seems like it wouldn't make sense and that it wouldn't work, but somehow it does. And I'm going to break down why I think it can work, how you could apply it to your own training, and some important things you need to consider. The main idea of cross-training is to get an aerobic training stimulus without the constant impact from running and the injury risk that can come with. Running is very impact heavy. Even at the professional level, the highest volume athletes are going to be running is going to be around 15 hours a week. But if you compare that to other like aerobic endurance sports like swimming or cycling, you'll see professional athletes training for 20 or 30 hours a week. It can be almost double. Impact forces are the biggest limiting factor that runners have. If it was possible to run for 20 to 30 hours a week, like it was for cycling or swimming, I'm sure pro runners would be doing that, but the human body just can't take that level of abuse. But cross-training could be a way to close that gap a little bit, or at the very least, take some of the impact stress off of runners, particularly those that are more injury prone. The stimulus that is achieved from aerobic running, where the blood is flowing and carrying large amounts of oxygen into the muscles that you're using, signaling the brain that there needs to be capillary development and mitochondrial development and the strengthening of the heart muscle. That's what's happening during running, but that can also happen during cross-training. There's going to be some variations in the muscles and the muscle groups that are being used between running and different forms of cross-training. It's not going to be a perfect one-to-one recreation, but if you're using similar groups of muscles like you would be running, biking, on the elliptical, on the arc trainer, aqua jogging, anything like that, it's going to be similar enough that you'll see those physiological benefits and adaptations in the areas that you need them to be able to improve your running. The more similar the motion can be in the muscle groups used, the better cross-training is going to be for you. That's why you might not see runners doing freestyle swimming or anything that is more based on the upper body. It's going to be working on the legs, working in motions that are similar to running, just without the impact. But the fact that it is lower impact means that most cross-training methods that you're going to be looking at are going to require more effort to get to like the same heart rate you would as you would running. Even if it's just an easy run, it'd be tough to get to that same heart rate when you're cycling, for example. So these athletes who are cross-training are not like going out for like a leisurely bike ride. They're working pretty hard at whatever they're doing, and you see it on the stationary machines when they're inside. There's just puddles of sweat everywhere from how hard they're working. But not every second of cross-training is going to be that high intensity, but there should still be a pretty steady level of effort. And you can throw in variations like fartleks and stuff like that to kind of mix things up and take advantage of being able to get some extra effort in without the impact stress. And I'd say one of the biggest downsides to cross-training is the lack of a neuromuscular stimulus that you would get from running. We focus on the neuromuscular stuff with like strides, short, fast repetitions, hill sprints, drills, all that kind of stuff. But that brain-muscle connection, that like learning the skill of running, is still happening to a degree, even if you're just out on an easy run. But when you're cross-training, you're missing out on that adaptation. So doing only cross training is probably not going to prepare you very well for the demands of like racing, which I'm sure is probably your goal. But if you're sidelined with a major injury and can't really run at all, then doing only cross training is good if that's what you can do. It's obviously better than nothing. But the application used by like Parker Valby that is more in the middle, something that you could use if you wanted to get better, but you're prone to overuse injuries, is kind of a mix where you're essentially just replacing as many easy days as necessary with cross training. Especially during a competition season, easy days are less about like building a base and more about just maintaining. And it seems that you can do that fairly well with cross training. And that allows you to take the impact pressure off on those days that are only about maintenance, really. But the important thing is those easy days are less stressful for you. And that allows you to use the 2 to 3 days of quality work, for example, like a tempo day, a speed day, and a long run day. Those days you'd still run normally. Those are the days where the more significant adaptations are going to come from, both on the physiological side and the biomechanical side. That's where a lot of what you're focusing on is going to come from. But using cross training on the easy days allows those days to be higher quality, allows you to recover better in between those days, and ideally just get more out of those quality sessions than you would have otherwise. And there's all sorts of room to play around with these kinds of things. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I've been dealing with some injuries, been doing some cross training. I've had some easy days where things felt a little bit better. So instead of doing only cross training, I would maybe run for like 20 minutes and then do some drills and then get on the bike. Like some days you don't feel very good at all, where you don't think running is going to be smart, so you stick exclusively to cross training. So lots of room to get creative. And if you're someone who's very healthy and has like very little history of injuries and can handle a lot of running, then running is probably going to be the best option for you to develop that aerobic capacity. Running is probably the best stimulus for running as long as you can handle it, but not everybody can. And if you are someone like that who's able to exclusively run lots of volume, you can still try adding some cross training to get some additional aerobic volume, but I would be careful because you want to make sure that you are recovering from the runs that you're doing and not overdoing it and hurting your adaptation and recovery. Just don't overdo the cross training in that situation. Everyone is different and has different situations and access to different equipment. You might need to adjust things and play around with things to fit your needs. But these principles of cross training can be applied in all sorts of ways. You can get creative with it, but it's kind of up to you what you think that you need and how you want to apply it to your own training.